Well, a warm welcome to you all. I'm JJ. I'm a life coach and I eat mostly meat. And this video is about starting carnivore.
I'm Eric. I'm a novelist and I eat mostly meat. And I'm ready to start talking about it because we think this is life-changing. It's the whole reason we have this channel is to model the lifestyle and show how it works for us to inspire and educate and motivate you.
So at this point, we've both been carnivore for more than 800 days. We started in October 2022. And since then, I have seen tremendous benefits. So prior to eating a mostly meat diet, I spent decades really struggling with hormonal imbalances and also inflammation. They led to female issues such as fibroids and miscarriage. I had low energy, debilitating fatigue, horrible brain fog, periods of depression, and just an overall low life force situation. I spent most of my 30s in bed, taking 2 naps a day and falling asleep really early. At a time when I was parenting a young child, I was giving all my energy to her and there was nothing left. So again, this went on for decades. And then after 35 years, I found this crazy way of eating called carnivore. And my life is upside down now in a good way. I have more energy than I've had since I was probably in my 20s. I have lost 30 pounds. I've had fun little side effects like loss of cellulite. That's just kind of fun. But the biggest improvement I've seen of all, other than the energy, is mood. I have such great mood and brain energy now that I feel like now that I'm in my 50s, I'm actually living the life I was meant to live.
Now, you did mention you lost 30 pounds, but you didn't just lose 30 pounds. You had amazing body recomposition without a ton of exercise.
That's true. Oh,
because you don't have the same shape that you did when I knew you when you were young.
yeah. It's so funny. When I was a teenager and in my 20s, I wasn't carrying much weight. But I was curvy and tended to be a little more pear-shaped, which at the time it was the 80s. So like people actually didn't want J-Lo and Beyonce. So when that came around, I was like, oh, thank goodness. But now I have more of just a standard sort of balanced hourglass figure. I'm more lean than I've ever been, and I have more muscle definition. And I used to dance a lot. I was a dancer when I was young, and my legs look better than they ever did before.
Let's see the gun show.
You want to see my gun show?
That's the gun show.
Let's see.
Yeah, there we go. And that's not with massive bicep work.
No, not much at all. I'll get on little kicks where it's funny because when you're younger, it's more of a vanity thing. And now that I am in my 50s, it is more about maintaining my muscle mass and my vitality as I age. And so every now and then I get on a kick where I'll do like 1 or 2 weight-bearing exercises a day. But it doesn't usually last long. So this is all, without a ton of exercise. Now I am pretty active, especially with all of the energy I have. I still work with youth theater with choreography, but I don't exercise regularly. I'm not spending a bunch of time lifting weights or on a treadmill. Can you imagine me running?
I can't imagine. I've never seen it.
No.
I have been doing this for 800 plus days now.
Yes.
And I had a whole history of being a very picky eater and eating lots of very bad sugary treats as meals when I was younger. As I got into adulthood, I started to be more responsible and I would have healthy plates of spaghetti.
Hey, low fat.
Do you remember
Body for Life?
Body for Life.
Lasagna
And enchiladas. They were low fat. And I would make those and I would do the Body for Life program. And I made progress, but I was always hungry and my gut didn't love it.
No.
The difference that carnivore has made in my life is just almost impossible to overstate. I had done keto successfully several times to lose some weight, but it always came back because keto allowed me carbs, and carbs are my poison. And it also never healed certain things like IBS and acid reflux, whereas on carnivore, those things have gone into remission to the extent that, I went to a gastroenterologist when I was 45 with terrible gut pains. I thought something was really bad. He said, let's do a colonoscopy. I was fine. And he gave me some prescription meds. They didn't really help that much. And I just thought, well, this is just the state of my body. But carnivore eliminated that. I mean, that alone is a huge reason to do it.
I can't tell you how much of the day was spent with him on the couch massaging his belly because it hurts so bad, and he was trying to get it to digest, and just it was
not good.
It was not good. No.
And high fiber that's supposed to be good for you, well, that was just pure torture for me.
Oh, remember when you started the big salads?
Oh, the big giant salads. Yeah, those were supposed to covered with olive oil.
He hated salads at first.
I learned to kind of like them, but they were not good for me.
And I would tell him, I would say, I think those salads are causing some issues with your gut. And
I didn't want to hear it.
The cognitive dissonance was there. It can't be that. It just can't be.
We're going to go into how to start carnivore. It isn't hard. But I want to cover one other topic, which you touched on before, which is mental health. It's improved your mood dramatically.
Yes, I did have periods of depression, so much so that I really went into studying the brain, trying to figure out how to just live life and enjoy myself. I became a life coach. Partially for this type of reason. Like, what can I do about my mindset? And little did I know, yes, mindset's important. That's all great. But with the foundation of a healthy brain that is not experiencing inflammation, your scores above most people. I mean, the effort you have to put in to having a good mood is minimal when you're eating a proper human diet that is not inflammatory.
All right. I had been on an SSRI for a couple of years. It was prescribed to me for a certain strain of anxiety that I was dealing with, which was health anxiety specifically.
You tried everything too.
I meditated. I took L-theanine. I took 5-HTP. Everything short of illegal drugs.
Yeah.
I tried in order to make my mind work. And the SSRI actually helped me. It didn't completely get rid of the intrusive thoughts, but it gave me a gap between the thought and my reaction. And that was just enough for me able to allow it to dissipate rather than for me to spiral into a panic attack or thinking that I had some fell disease that was going to kill me. After being on carnivore and knowing that especially the ketones that are in the blood during carnivore are very beneficial to the brain, I decided I would wean off the SSRI and see how I did. I was able to do that under a doctor's program, and the side effects of weaning off were very minimal. So that was a win right there.
Yeah.
After my last dose, I was able to continue, and it felt like I was still on it. And now, if you followed this channel, you know that I more recently have had some anxiety come back, but it's nothing like it was. I do not feel like I need to go back on the med. But I think I know why. And I've been talking about this on this channel for a while, and I've been experimenting with some things, but I think I know why and what to do about it. We're actually going to talk about that later on in this video. So when it comes to carnivore, let's talk about why it works.
So we've sort of alluded to it already. It is the most anti-inflammatory diet there is. So the ability to rid your body of inflammation is what brings so much healing, so many health benefits. So where's that inflammation come from? It comes from things like seed oils and plants. Who would have known? And processed junk food, obviously. That one's an easy one to grok, to understand. But the idea that plants have inflammatory anti-nutrients was mind-blowing after all of those decades hearing that we should be eating more plants in our diet. So that right there is huge. And then it also normalizes blood sugar and insulin, which is actually why I came to the carnivore diet ultimately, is that I was doing some eating windows and I realized that I needed to lower my insulin even more. So I was looking for a diet to do that, and then got the anti-inflammatory benefits on top of that. It was amazing.
It's remarkable as inflammation goes down, the things that start to resolve. And for you, one of the weirdest ones very early on, even maybe before carnivore, was allergies.
Yes. As soon as my inflammation started to go down and my insulin came down, my allergies resolved in about a week of doing the intermittent fasting, the eating window. So right away, I knew that eating in more of an ancestral way was beneficial. Now, I didn't lose any weight on the diet for 7 months at first, but I was seeing non-scale victories that helped keep me going, including too, the allergies, but also I have an ankle injury, an old ankle injury from when I was about 20 years old that I was thinking I might need surgery on. And I know you've heard this from other carnivores. I don't have pain in that anymore.
Yes. No need for surgery then.
No need for surgery. So yeah, it's incredible how quick some things can respond. And other things, maybe not so quick.
Another great benefit to carnivore is there's way fewer decisions to make about what you're going to eat. And this is a real power for people like me who are not natural moderators when it comes to carby food in particular. Obviously, sugar is highly addictive, and I'm a eat the whole bag of Oreos, not a eat one or two like she could do. And so when I was doing keto, there was always, how do I ration my 20 grams of carbs? Now, I wasn't using Oreos in that most of the time.
No.
I was using certain vegetables that were on my salad. I was using sweet potato.
Yes.
And all of that was I liked the sweetness and I liked the textures. And so I would always have to be metering these carbs in. It was sort of my little reward foods. Well, every time I'm dosing that into my system, I am strengthening and reaffirming the whole addictive cycle to those foods. So carnivore removes them. I don't have to make a decision about which ones I'm going to eat. I'm not eating any of them. And then over time, that allows my whole brain and taste buds to recalibrate and center around a new menu.
Now, you do a lot more cooking now that you're carnivore.
I do any cooking.
But speaking as the primary cook and grocery shopper for most of our marriage, fewer decisions is awesome. Because grocery shopping gets much, much easier. And when you would do keto, and I'd jump on board a little bit, but I never really got any benefits from it, so I never stayed on. But there was always that, oh my gosh, how can I get more fat into this? How much cheese do I need to add to this broccoli to get him to his macros, but not go over his macros? And so, yeah, it was a lot of extra work. And now things are much more minimal.
So to that point, let's talk about kind of the two paths into carnivore that are the most obvious. Now they are dive in and just pull the Band-Aid off and do it all at once, or wade in slowly and suffer the cold water as it rises to your knees and then your groin and then your belly and then your chest and then your shoulders. Which way is harder? I guess depends on the person.
I think it does. So as you mentioned, I I am more of a moderator in my personality. And when I started the carnivore diet, I didn't dive in quite like you did. I was still, when I was at home, I was definitely eating carnivore. When I was out about once a week, it was not as carnivore. It was more keto or ketovore, where I was having maybe that salad. But wading in, I think I didn't suffer a lot of adaptation issues, which we'll talk about in a moment. I didn't feel deprived because I knew I was going to have that one day a week or one meal. It wasn't even a full day. It was one meal most weeks that I could have a little more flexibility. I didn't have to, this lunch I'm talking about, I have with my friend weekly. And so I didn't have to explain to anything to her, really. I didn't have to come out of the carnivore closet at all. So I think there are some benefits, and especially if you're coming from the standard American diet. Now, I was already gluten-free for 13 years or something. So people were already used to me not eating the bun.
Yeah, right.
I already had a little standard of my food was going to be a little bit different. But if you're coming straight from a standard American diet, smack into eating more natural foods and mostly meat, it might be a little harder on the system and harder on the mindset. I don't know.
So what are the cons of wading in, do you think?
Well, you mentioned it's probably, if you have a food addiction of some sort, it's probably not the way to go. And I don't know. I think some people don't experience the full benefits of carnivore or being in deep ketosis if they keep throwing themselves out of it. They may still be getting those inflammatory responses, especially if they have some autoimmune issues. I'm not sure that wading in is right for everyone. Now, for me, again, already a moderator personality, so that was good. It did take me 7 months to lose weight. So had I was committed anyway. There was no backing out because I'd seen benefits already. But someone who might not see results the results they want might be more likely to back out and quit.
Now, every time she says she didn't lose weight for 7 months, I want to be clear. Her clothes did not fit. So something changed.
That's true.
And it didn't show up on the scale, but it was showing up on her body.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about diving in because that's what I did.
Yeah. You tend to dive in.
I tend to because I just was kind of raised with sort of a abuse yourself to cure yourself
That's true.
model. I don't recommend approaching it with that mentality.
I definitely don't.
But it's also, for me, it's just torture to have small portions of things I love. Mm-hmm. And that I'm addicted to. I would rather not have a bite of a cookie if I can't have the whole bag.
One bite is too much.
Oh, right. A whole bag is not enough.
A whole bag is not enough. Yeah.
That's a good saying.
It really is.
Because that's sort of the addict's mantra or mantra, depending on where you're from. I did beef, bacon, butter, and eggs. And I'm not sure who popularized that. I know I learned it from Dr. Berry. And I did that for 30 days. I wish that I had gone 90. 30 was great. 90 would, I think, have shot me like a missile into greater successes. Unfortunately, I started in October, and my birthday is in the middle of November, and then there's Thanksgiving, and then there's Christmas, and then there's New Year's. And I was unsuccessful at being 100% compliant on this plan during those seasons.
Now, I wasn't 100% either, but I was much more compliant.
You're a moderator.
I'm a moderator, so I could have the Christmas dinner, and then the next day I was good to go back on meat only.
So then it was January, February, I recommitted into it. But some of the things that I had eliminated during beef, bacon, butter, and eggs, I had brought back, like some dairy and some artificial sweeteners and some other meats. Those probably weren't the biggest issue. But I would say that diving in, if you can do it for a long enough duration to squash the cravings, can get you very quickly to dropping inflammation and getting all these benefits like blood pressure normalization, which happened for me very quickly when I did that. It wasn't super high, but it came down. I was never a type 2 diabetic. My A1Cs got into the mid 5s, but I could see the trend over time was headed there. And in another 10 years, it probably would have crossed the threshold. So I didn't want that. So I knew I had to get the carbs out. So I was motivated for that. But then when I started getting the IBS relief and the reflux relief, that was really big. And the only error I made was I couldn't power through certain events in the fall because I think starting in October is just inopportune
for you. Yeah, definitely.
So some of the cons though, I did hit some pretty strong adaptation discomfort. And I've been through the keto flu several times, and I knew that I needed more salt and electrolytes and probably more fat. But there's this thing as your body's switching over to creating ketones, sometimes it's not really creating enough ketones, or the body's not as skilled at using the ketones. And so you have lower blood sugar and the ketones are there, but the body's still trying to adapt to it. And you've flushed out a lot of water retention. So that's where the whole salt balance thing comes in. So that's one of the positive negatives is that you know it's working because you feel like crap. But that's how I framed it.
Yeah, that is how you framed it. Yeah, you weren't. I've heard that some people are like, oh my gosh, I'm experiencing the involuntary cleanse. Or did we hear another name for it? Oh,
I don't remember either.
Yeah.
But you can have some very loose stools very suddenly.
Or the flu, the keto flu. Yeah. And some people say, oh my gosh, I feel awful. This must not be the diet for me. And might even consult a medical person who says,
why are you doing that? I don't know why they talk like
this. This is proof.
Yeah, you feeling bad is proof you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But the eating sad made me feel bad, so that's proof I shouldn't do that. And eating tons of vegetables made me feel terrible, so that's proof I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So that's not enough evidence.
No.
Plus, everybody, we have, not everybody, but many people go through this adaptation, so it's a known thing.
Yeah.
If you experience it, that is a good sign. It doesn't feel good, but you can take comfort in knowing that your body is having to contend with this change and it's doing it. The side effect of that is you don't feel great, but it's doing it. For me, the involuntary cleanses took about a month. Now, it wasn't a constant thing every day, but it would hit me by surprise at very inopportune times when I was far from where I needed to be. But I did make that adaptation and that ended.
So let's just say you're here, you want to dive in. I think we should take that approach and really dive into that. Dive into the diving in a little more than the wading in, because really, I think most people, the diving in is probably the better route.
If you're carnivore curious and you're already keto, you're halfway there.
That's true.
And it's not that big of a leap.
Yeah.
But if you're carnivore curious and you're coming off of being a vegan, a vegetarian, or just eating a standard regular American Western diet, it may feel like a very tall order. And so we want to talk about how do you approach that.
Yeah.
One final con for diving in is your friends and family will think you are insane.
Oh my goodness.
But that's a positive. Just say that's a positive. You're doing something different. I'll just get off my pedestal. There's time for that later.
Well, honestly, though, I'm going to say, even if you wade in, eventually you're going to be telling your family and friends. Yeah. I did have to come out of the carnivore closet. I'd been on it about a year and a half when I did. Yeah.
It's nice if you can delay it, though, to have the results.
Yes.
Because she looked so different. Everybody was like, what are you doing? And at that point, it's not as crazy because she's got the evidence of the benefit. All right.
Well, and as a life coach, I work with clients and we say often don't talk about what you're doing with too many people because the naysayers only reaffirm your biggest fears.
Yeah.
So when you're early on, you might want to keep it mostly to yourself. And I kept it so much to myself, so did you, that we started at the same time, but didn't tell each other that we had started.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Okay. 25 minutes in, and now we're going to tell you how to do it. But we love it's so important to understand that it does work and it's got benefits. All right. So if you want to start carnivore, here's the first steps that I think you should take. The first one, take your measurements. Weight, body comp, if you can get it. Maybe your scale calculates body fat. Write that down. It's not 100. It doesn't worry about it. It's not that super accurate. Just keep a record of it. Measurements, waist measurement. Take that. You will want that. Now, you may hate what you see, but later you're going to wish you had done it.
So I knew my measurements pretty much. I could state them now. I knew what they were, but I didn't do before pictures. And you were so bummed that I don't have before pictures and wasn't more on top of this.
Yeah, and I didn't either.
No, I didn't think it was going to work. I didn't think I'd be sticking to, I didn't know, but just assume that it's going to work. Just assume you're going to experience that body recomposition. Yeah.
Take the before pictures, front and profile. You don't have to get completely undressed to do that, like many people do. Just get the photos and then save them on a different device in a hidden folder someplace. Delete them off of your camera roll so you don't have to see them every time you open the Photos app. But have them because you're gonna want them, and you're gonna want them actually pretty quickly. So once you're 2 or 3 months in, there will be detectable differences in body composition, face, skin, and
skin.
And when you see that, it will reaffirm you are on the right track.
Yeah.
Now, one that you could do is try to get some blood labs done. I would like to de-emphasize the blood labs, even though I'm crazy about getting them. But if you're very data oriented, well then, yeah, go get some blood labs. And you can do that with walk-in labs or own your own labs, or maybe your doctor will do some of them. But if you do them, you want fasting insulin, HSCRP, and an A1C. I would ignore, you could do the cholesterol panel, but you're only interested in triglycerides and HDL in that panel. All right, moving on. All right. You're going to commit to 90 days of beef, bacon, butter, and eggs. You can adjust that. If you absolutely hate beef, okay, you could probably do some other protein. The trick is you're going to have to figure out how to supplement more fat because carnivore, while it looks like it's a protein diet because you're eating all this meat, it is fundamentally a diet of fat, animal fat. And so beef, bacon, butter, eggs is really convenient, and you can eat those in whatever proportion you want to satiety.
That's one of the things that brought me to this way of eating was that there's no measuring really. You eat till you're done. And if you're hungry, you eat some more.
Yep, pretty much.
It's crazy.
The ways to supplement butter are pretty easy. Cook in tallow. Obviously, don't cook it in seed oils. You could cook in butter. I don't know if that's the best way to do it or not.
Depends, yeah.
If you like butter, put butter on your steak. People will think you're insane, but you can just do that. Some will just eat butter if you can palate that texture and flavor. That's fine. I like to cook egg yolks and add those to my steak because I'm trying to up the proportion of fat. So I'm getting rid of the egg whites, which are all protein, and I'm eating just the yolks. The yolks have some protein in it. And then that supplements the fat in a steak like a New York strip, which if you're buying them at the store, they're often kind of too fat trimmed.
Yes.
And they're not quite the proportion you want. Mm-hmm. So if you're eating a ribeye on the plate, it's going to be pretty close to the proportion you want, but it wouldn't hurt to put a little fat on that.
And I'm someone who loves butter. So I was the type of person who would use the bread as the vehicle for the butter. And so for me, it was really easy to start adding butter to my steaks, especially. So you might have some cognitive dissonance around shifting to cooking with animal fats, but that is the best way to go. You might also have some cognitive dissonance around salting, because for much of my life, I was told don't have like more than 1,000 milligrams of salt a day or 1,200 milligrams. I can't remember which it was. But when you're on this diet, you want to salt to taste. What that looks like for you. Usually when you're starting out, it looks like a lot of salt, and then things tend to seem to ease up as you go along. But don't question it. Just give your body what it's craving.
Yeah. Now there are OG carnivores who are like, don't salt. You don't need any extra salt. That could be true long term. I've found that I get some issues if I'm not getting enough salt, and it's uncomfortable. So then I consume salt.
Yep. Yeah. Now, some of the other OGs, I'm thinking of Kelly Hogan in particular. When she started, she might not have been salting a whole lot, but she was having some diet sodas.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. She had, I think, for like a couple of years or something like that. And she still had great success, but you have some experience with artificial sweeteners, especially.
Because I am such a sweet addict, I reincorporated diet sodas into my diet very quickly after that first 30 days. And then when I restarted that following winter, spring, I kept drinking my diet sodas. And I think what happened was that kept the sweet monkey on my back, because I never was able to quash the sweet cravings the way that many carnivores do. And so I could go for weeks eating steak, bacon, eggs, and diet soda. And every once in a while going, oh, I really want some ice cream, or I really want some, pick your poison. And it would start to bubble up and start to haunt me, because I would feel like I've got to have that. When I get rid of it, that goes away.
Well, and there's also this idea of the cephalic insulin response. So I told you I came to Carnivore to lower my insulin. I was having some metabolic issues cropping up. And for some people, we don't know who, because we don't measure insulin nonstop on a continuous insulin monitor. But for some people, that little shot of sweetness can raise your insulin enough that you aren't going to get the healing and the results that you want.
Yeah. So I would suggest, especially for the first 90 days, just keep the artificial sweeteners out. But that brings us to caffeine. And this is a little bit controversial, but there aren't really any carnivore police, so you don't have to worry about it. I drink coffee. I drink it black, although more recently I've been adding MCT oil as an experiment. Plant oil.
It is plant
oil, but it's an experiment. If you have to have some sort of creamer, heavy cream would be okay, but not ideal, because there's still some dairy proteins in it, and you may have sensitivities to that you don't know until you get rid of it. Otherwise, you could do butter and do like a bulletproof coffee, but just adding liquid fats isn't always the best idea for long-term results, because I found that my digestion doesn't love lots and lots of liquid fats in one big dose. That's my only point. But I would say if you're addicted to caffeine, maybe that's one to keep for now and worry about getting rid of that later.
Well, that is true too. Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to go hardcore, just get rid of the coffee. I don't know that it's a net benefit. For me, it makes me a little jittery.
Yeah, no. And speaking of rendered fats is what you're talking about, that liquid fat. Now, I don't really seem to have a problem with rendered fats, but you do want to eat a lot of fat on this diet. And you alluded to that earlier, that this is really a high fat diet. So wherever you can, be adding in that fat in a form that doesn't bother your digestion. Now, you'll probably adapt and you'll know your point, because there is a point for all of us to overdo the fat, but that's a lot of fat. You would not believe how much. But there might be a little adaptation at the beginning where you have to ease into having that fat, or liquid fat doesn't work for you. But you want to make sure, don't trim the fat off your meat. If you're eating a leaner meat like chicken, you'll want to supplement some sort of fat with your meal.
Now, I alluded to this earlier about mental health. I have been doing don't measure anything carnivore basically forever because I just not a planning type of person, and tedious things bother me and I won't do them long term. But we were just at a meetup in Illinois, and Dr. Kiltz was there doing, and several, Dr. Hampton and Wiedemann were there. They gave talks. And the message I came away with was fat, 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 fat. And it's not like I hadn't heard it a billion times before, but there's something different hearing it in person. I don't know what it is, but it got through finally. And I was like, you know what? This is the thing I need to do, is make sure that I'm always supplementing more fat to make sure that proportion's about right. Let me give you an example. Now, during your first 90 days, you wouldn't necessarily have sardines, but it is a common thing to have sardines out of the tin as a healthy snack or part of a meal. But it works out if the sardines are tinned in water. The calories from fat and the calories from protein are about 50-50. And we prefer that to be 80-20. So 80% of your calories from fat. Now, do we care about calories?
No.
We don't care about calories other than as a way to calculate a ratio and understand how much fat we're using versus how much protein. There's probably a weight ratio that would work out. I don't know what it is that you could also look at. And I think I was always in the closer to the 60-40, 70-30. And my view is when I would eat that way long-term and test my ketones with a Keto Mojo, my ketones would be like 0.4, 0.5. That's not high. That is nowhere near therapeutic ketosis that is being used by Dr. Eid and Dr. Palmer for mental health benefits in their patients. We refer to Dr. Eid's book, Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind, in almost every video. Here it is. And if you're having something like anxiety, depression, and other issues, some people can reduce their meds or get off of their meds through a very high ketosis diet. And I think I was not there after a long period of time, because it is a thing that you can have lower serum ketones as you go deeper and deeper and longer into carnivore.
Yeah, I agree with that. I had results on carnivore, doing great, but then I really heard the message from people like Dr. Bright and even Bella, Steak and Butter Gal, about how females need that fat. And so I jumped on the fat wagon right away. Again, I don't do a lot of measuring, but for a couple weeks I did measure just to see that I was, one, eating enough, because that's an issue that some females have as well, especially of not eating enough food, period. But also to just make sure I was getting more and more fat. And when I added that extra fat, and I was eating the butter on the steaks to start with, right? But when I added extra fat, and for me it was in the form of fat trimmings at that time from the butcher, I noticed that's when my mental health got even better. I mean, I was doing well, but it up-leveled greatly. Yeah.
So there's this tension between what can your gut tolerate?
Yes.
And what does your brain need? And you may need to ratchet that up slowly over time so that you don't have to be dashing to the bathroom in order to maintain a good mental health. So high fat is where it's at. Eat the fat. It's all about the fat. Your energy will come from fat.
Eat the fat.
Eat the fat. Now, another reason you might be fatigued or have some brain fog, or for me, heart palpitations, could be because of electrolytes are too low. As you shed all this water and lose this inflammation, these things tend to come with it and be flushed out. Now, you might ask, well, if carnivore is such a great diet, why am I not getting all the electrolytes I need?
Yeah, if it's so great, why aren't you?
Well, the story, as I understand it, and I think it's probably true, is that the cows are grazing on, well, a lot of them being fed grains, but they're grazing on depleted soil. So they're not eating the soil. They're eating grass that's grown on the soil, but the soil cannot impart to a plant anything that's not in it, which is a very circuitous way to say that if grass grows in soil, it can only be made out of what is in that soil. So if the soils are depleted through farming practices that are just don't encourage it, then eventually you get beef that doesn't have as much of the electrolytes in it. This is true of iodine. If,
Yes.
for instance, chickens who aren't supplemented with iodine in the Midwest aren't likely to have much iodine in the eggs because they're not near the ocean.
Just being near the ocean.
Yeah, kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah. And I encourage you, if you are looking at supplementing with electrolytes, what are some of the symptoms first?
Well,
Did you say that?
fatigue, brain fog, muscle cramps
Yeah.
is a very common one. Heart palpitations, just feeling like I'm getting enough fat and I'm eating it all right. And all of a sudden I'm like, ugh, I'm dragging. That component of keto flu might be an electrolyte issue.
Now, I did not experience these issues at first, but then I started to have some cramping in my feet, especially muscle cramps. And so I started one brand of electrolyte and was on that for quite a while, having about 2 a day. If I missed a dose, I would experience the cramping again. So I was like, wow, I need my electrolytes pretty badly. Well, then I happened to switch to a different brand and I don't need as many electrolytes. I maybe have 1 a day. Sometimes I skip a day of electrolytes. So either my body's adapted in a different way, or what I suspect is that electrolyte actually has the right ratio of potassium, iodine, and sodium for my body. Magnesium. Yes, that's it. So I just wanted to add that little cautionary tale to try different brands of electrolytes and don't just base it on taste, because I like the taste of the first brand better, but I think the second brand is what actually serves my body better.
If you're in your first 90 days, you want to favor the electrolyte packet. They come in little envelopes and it's a powder you dissolve in water or you could put it in coffee. It would be horrible. Very salty.
Yes.
So you have to, if you're not used to that, you put it in a large volume of water and just drink it all day long. But the brand that's worked well for us right now is Salty.
Yes.
And that's, is that the Keto Chow people?
It is the Keto Chow. And we have the liquid that I will sometimes use.
There's a liquid?
Yes.
I didn't know about it.
You bought it. It's the electrolyte drops that we have.
Oh, that's Keto Chow people too.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
So there's that option as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
I take some magnesium in capsule form as well, because I just feel like I need a little bit more magnesium than's in the Salty. But there's a lot of potassium in the Salty, and it can be a little more tricky to supplement potassium because too much too long can be very dangerous. So that one I tend to be a little more conservative with. And then the salt is just a lot of salt. And it can be very dramatic. I don't get headaches very often. If I get a headache on Carnivore, it's almost always a salt issue.
Yeah, you weren't a big headachy person anyway. I used to get headaches. When I got rid of grains, I did much better. When I got onto mostly meat, it's very rare that I get a headache. Yeah. So we've talked a little bit. We brought up chicken wings.
Yeah, let's talk about chicken.
We talked a little bit about chicken.
Let's talk turkey.
We can talk turkey too. Oh my gosh. We went to an Italian restaurant recently with our daughter and ordered chicken breast because that's what was available. Oh my gosh. So
it was their grilled chicken breast.
Of course.
They of course have a breaded one, but that's not on the menu.
No, it's so very, very dry. There's no fat in chicken breast. Holy cow. And that's what we were told to eat our whole lives, and on the salads and everything. So my point being, we do go to Buffalo Wild Wings every now and then too. That's great. Chicken wings cooked in tallow, not seed oils. But you need more salt and you'll know it, or not salt, more fat. You need more fat with chicken and you'll know it because you'll be like, we just finished eating. I ate till I was comfortably stuffed, like Dr. Barry says, and everyone. And we're on our way home from Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'm already hungry.
Now, people who are familiar with Buffalo Wild Wings might be thinking, are you putting all the barbecue sauce on those?
No, we are not.
They're called naked wings.
Yes.
And they do offer some dry rubs that you can try. Those are a little bit sketchy, especially early on in carnivore.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to do an elimination diet, so you're not wanting to add in plant spices. But they have one that's a salt, mostly just salt and maybe a little bit of vinegar or something.
Yeah.
That one's probably the safest, and it tastes pretty good.
Yeah.
Burned my lips, though, after a while.
Yeah. But the point is, if you're eating poultry, you probably need to add some fat to
You
your
absolutely
meal.
have to add fat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even with the wings, which are fattier, or thighs that are fattier. Now, variety is great. I know Laura Spath, she likes to have different meats at each meal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So, if you need the variety, great. We go for the variety, and make sure you get the fat.
So what about the pig?
The
Because
pig.
we're eating the bacon.
Yes, that's true. Now, the bacon has fat in it.
It's when all that white part of the uncooked bacon, that's all fat. Unfortunately, when you fry it, a lot of that renders out and you don't get it.
Yeah, that is true. So you're probably going to need to supplement fat with most of your pork.
Now, some
dishes
people
as
will
well.
make eggs and pour that fat back onto the eggs. I don't like how that tastes.
Pour what, the
bacon grease.
Oh, yes.
I don't like how that tastes, so I
Yeah.
don't do that.
Yeah. And it's rendered. It's hot rendered
Yeah.
fat, so it might not do well with your digestion. So you may have to add fat to, especially something like a pork loin. But even, we have ribs every now and again, and I'm not sure we're getting enough fat
No,
with that
they're
either.
not fatty enough.
I usually supplement. And the other thing, the reason we don't, as carnivores, focus on chicken, poultry, pig, is that it does not have the proper digestive system. Not only is it a fat thing, but it doesn't have the same digestive system as ruminant animals do, like the cow. And those ruminant animals have the digestive system with the multiple stomach chambers and everything to actually take the anti-nutrients that are in the plants, the plant toxins, and turn it and neutralize it for our consumption in their muscle meat and in their fat. So it's like they are the ideal type of meat for a human. Now, again, we will eat other meats. That's fine. But really, if you can do it, and I know someone who maybe has been vegetarian for a long time can't do that yet, but if you can jump to a ruminant meat, that is your best bet. And a fatty one is even better. We had some venison recently, had to supplement with fat.
It was too lean.
Too lean.
Lamb. I know a lot of people.
That's a ruminant.
It's a red meat. If you can stomach it, we had a video where we made lamb chops. It was the worst meat I've ever had in my life. But in the comments, we were advised that there might have been some better choices we could have made.
Yes, yes.
So we need to give that a retry at some point.
But it's too fresh in our memories right now.
And one of the tips was, well, you have to have some sort of mint sauce. Well, no, mint is a plant. We're not putting that in our carnivore meal. So that we have to figure out a different approach.
What's funny is I liked it okay, but the more I thought about what I was eating, the gamier it seemed to taste. So then
It was horrible.
our dog got those leftovers.
He didn't mind it. He doesn't mind gamey food.
He didn't mind the hoof juice.
Let's see. All right.
The big thing I want you to keep in mind is that this carnivore way of eating is ultimately an elimination diet. You are getting rid of the inflammation because you are eliminating all of the inflammatory foods and any other food that might bother you that you don't even know is disrupting your system. And I am huge on this because my first introduction to an elimination diet was eliminating gluten, and that changed my life dramatically. I had no idea that those healthy whole grains were killing me. So the idea of diving in is somewhat important in that because I don't know if something's bothering me if I'm still eating it. Now, as part of this elimination diet, the best things you are eliminating are sugar and processed foods. So number one and two, you're eliminating those highly toxic foods for our bodies. And then again, eliminating other plant toxins that you might not even realize, like your salad,
Yeah.
that are causing the issues. So again, we can't even stress enough that you don't know how good you can feel until you've done this way of eating.
Think about the salad that was supposedly so healthy for me. It was mixed greens because I didn't like iceberg lettuce or even romaine that much. So I was trying to have a very dark leafy greens. These are very bitter, and that's telling you, don't eat this. This is an evolutionary adaptation the plant has made so that you don't eat it. And so you don't just eat them naked. You have to put a dressing on it or other things around it to kind of balance out that flavor.
Yeah.
One of the things I put on it was shredded raw beets full of oxalates.
Yes.
You can just search for Susie Norton. Is that right?
Sally.
Search for Sally Norton on YouTube and watch and learn. You don't want those shards of toxins in your system. And you don't really want them coming back out of your system either. But I was putting that on there to add a little sweetness, a little texture. I was putting walnuts on there. Of course, it's great, full of nice, healthy oils and stuff,
Keto.
right? Nice and nicely roasted in seed oils, I'm sure, before it made it into my mouth. The olive oil, we have to trust that the Costco olive oil was pure, but you never really know what's in the olive oil. What else did I put on that? Oh, my chicken breast, which I got very good at air frying and having it stay a little bit moist, but that has no fat in it to speak of. So it was this bowl of low fat toxins.
With a little sugar bomb.
Now here's where it gets a little bit mind bending. If you look up the nutritional data on beets and walnuts and the mixed greens, they are full of all kinds of wonderful vitamins and minerals.
They are.
But that does not mean the gut can derive them from them. That doesn't mean that your body can absorb them. In fact, the anti-nutrients that come along with it will irritate the gut. And eventually, with an irritated gut, you get gut permeability, and then you get weird, stranger proteins in the bloodstream, and now you start to get autoimmune issues. So it is nobody's favor eating salads, so don't do it. Now, she needs to hear this because she's a kind of every other week salad girl.
Yeah, I probably have a couple a month.
And
but lately,
it's just a dose of poison.
Lately, I've been I didn't think it was affecting me, but lately I think it is.
Now, fruit.
Oh, fruit.
You're told that apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, that's what the doctor wants you to think, because it's actually a line connected to his coat to drag him back into your life, because it's just a sugar ball.
Yeah.
The same thing with any of the berries. Maybe are okay because they're low sugar, but you don't need to be eating a pint of berries every day to try to get a whole bunch of polyphenols into your system.
No.
Don't fall for it. Vegetables are bags of toxins, stalks of fibrous toxins, and cellulose that is a non-digestible material that goes into your digestive tract and scrapes along the lining to aggravate your IBS. So just think about every piece of broccoli and kale as a scrub brush that you're eating.
And one of the things Dr. Kiltz kept bringing up too at that meetup we just went to was the fermenting of the vegetables in your gut. He does not feel that is probably healthy.
They produce a bunch of toxic aldehydes.
Yeah.
And then finally, the starchy things like the potatoes and the sweet potato. Well, sweet potato, that's got to be full of all kinds of good things. Plus, it's sweet. That's a just giant dose of glucose into your system. It's going to spike your blood sugar and give your insulin will have to arise in response. It's doing you no favors whatsoever.
Now, you used to say this because you'd go keto, right?
Yep.
You'd tell me this is all just sugar. And I would be rolling my eyes off to the side because I knew that, you were like, this is the same as cake. It's the same as bread. And I was like, no, it's not. It's got all the nutrients. It's not the same. And so I'd be rolling my eyes. But then I've learned with my continuous glucose monitor, when I've worn that for just self-experimentation, I've learned how bad these can be. And again, being off of them, I've learned that they were really causing me a lot of suffering. a lot of suffering, and that I feel so much better when they're just not in my diet.
So this next tip will be mildly controversial.
Uh-oh.
But I think for the first 30 days minimum, but
Yeah.
probably I would say 90 days, avoid carnivore versions of the old favorites. So carnivore pizza, carnivore pancakes, fill in the blank, carnivore blank.
Bread, bagels.
Yeah, all of those things. There's wonderful recipes out there, and maybe will belong on the menu in the future. But for the adaptation phase, stay away from them because it creates the wrong message for the mind and the palate. It's much better to reorganize the whole thing around a different menu. And then eventually, as you get into the more advanced stages of carnivore, you can start to explore those things when you're in a much stronger footing.
I would agree with that. And I would also say that for most people in that first 30, 60, 90 days, they aren't even going to like the fake carnivore.
You'll be disappointed.
You'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
It's not going to be what you remembered exactly, even though, dang, Chris Cooking Nashville has some pretty dang good recipes. Wait, just wait.
I'm going to warn you right now. Carnivore flatbread is full of carbs.
Yes.
It's not a lot of carbs, but it's full of carbs. It's got cottage cheese in it. Read the label. There's a ton of carbs in the cottage cheese. Your first 90 days, do not make carnivore flatbread. It is an addiction. Ask me how I know. All right. So if you want to, you want your sugar cravings to ease. If you're like me and very addicted to sweet, I'm going to say it again. Artificial sweeteners will keep that alive. So every Diet Coke or whatever it is that you're putting in, every little sweet treat is going to keep the sweet monster alive. And you're going to always be thinking about and wanting the real thing. So you'll do yourself a great favor if you can make it a week with none of it. And the cravings will drop dramatically. Anytime that I add the artificial sweeteners back into my life, and they do creep in from time to time, all of a sudden I'm starting to think about, well, a little bit of ice cream wouldn't be too bad. And then a little bit could easily become ice cream all the time. Which
another thing I think we need to be careful with is dairy. Because for many carnivores, dairy is okay.
Yep.
And I'm one of those that I do eat dairy, but I love the idea of, do you have sober behavior around the dairy? So I can have a little sliver of cheese and be fine, but when we get the soft spreadable cheese, I don't necessarily have sober behavior around that. Refrigerator drive-bys. And the issue is, one, as we mentioned, dairy might be inflammatory for some people. So especially if you're starting out, eliminate it, then add it back in and see what it does for you. But the other thing is, like you said, it contains carbs. Dairy contains carbs, and it might be keeping you above that insulin threshold, keeping you from healing and feeling your best. So especially if you're a coffee drinker, I know of some people who will drink like a half a pot of coffee a day, and they will fill it with cream, compliant, but they're having a lot of carbs with that, a lot of dairy sugar, milk sugars.
Yep.
So,
full fat cream, heavy cream, it's got carbs in it. So you got to be careful with that. Plus it's got the protein, the dairy proteins in it, which can be inflammatory. And you may think, oh, I'm fine. Don't have any issue with dairy. You might. And until you get rid of it, you don't know. If you have to add something to your coffee to make it palatable, then it's probably butter. But even that has a little bit of dairy protein in it. So it's not a perfect thing, but you're on beef, bacon, butter, and eggs anyway. So that's not really a big deal. Yeah. A lot of people don't like buttered coffee because it's kind of got a weird flavor. Obviously, I would say don't use salted butter in your coffee. I drink coffee black. And I always have. I like it that way. Maybe you can learn to like it that way.
You can also try, if you're okay with a raw egg, you can try putting raw yolk in it.
That's very strange to me.
Yeah, but you have to have the little whiskey thing.
Yeah.
It's that whiskey thing.
It's the little milk frother.
Yes, yeah, to really incorporate it. I do that sometimes to up my fat.
Weird.
Yeah.
I didn't know you did that.
It's pretty rare, but on occasion I do.
Gut adaptation. We've talked about this a little bit. Involuntary cleanses are a thing. This can correct quickly for some people. And for me, it took about a month.
The other thing, we've been talking a little bit about some of the pitfalls where you've got to be careful. And the holidays, we're just coming off the holidays, and that is a danger zone for a lot of people. Yeah. Vacations, get-togethers. Do what you can to prepare. We have one of our viewers who he had a baked potato bar he was going to. His family for the holidays was having baked potato bar. So he brought a whole pot full of ground beef for them to put on their potatoes, but mostly for him to eat.
Not on a potato.
Not on a potato. So prepare. It might look like bringing your own dish like that. It might also look like deciding to fill yourself before you go to the event, so you're not even really tempted by the things that are there. It might also mean carrying that purse bacon or the carnivore bar in your pocket, so you've got another alternative.
What is
food.
purse bacon?
Purse bacon is bacon that you've made ahead of time and you've put in your purse in a baggie.
In a baggie is important.
I'm thinking of those lifesavers with the lint on them. When we were kids. Yeah. No, you put it in a baggie.
And it doesn't matter if it gets to room temperature. You cooked it.
It's okay.
It's okay. It'll keep for a while.
Yeah. Or you might even just decide to fast through the event and take eating off the table if you're able to. Depends what type of event it is, though. Obviously, if you're at a sit-down dinner, not eating anything is going to maybe raise some eyebrows.
Yeah. The key is if you know you're going to go into a dangerous situation like that, eat a carnivore meal before you go. That way you don't have to be tempted in the moment by saying, well, one cheat day won't hurt me, especially during your early adaptation phase.
But I want to say this, if you're going to a restaurant, don't stress out, order a burger patty. Most restaurants, you can get a burger patty. I traveled a little earlier this past year and was like, what am I going to eat? I don't know what. Oh, wait, there's a burger joint on every corner.
Yep.
Like, it's easy to get the burger patties, but you want to eat before you go because one burger patty isn't going to be enough. Not for a carnivore without the bread and all the sides. So
it'll probably be too lean. So put butter on that thing.
Yeah.
Or just eat butter directly.
So yeah, just prepare for those types of situations and understand you might also get some social pressure. I know I said I came out of the carnivore closet, and I remember it very distinctly because it was Easter and we were having a family get together, and my family is so wonderful. For years and years, they have been making special gluten-free items for me. And the conversation came up about what we were going to have for our Easter get together. And I said, you know what? Don't even bother. I'm good. I'm going to have your deviled eggs. And there was some meat platter that I can eat, but just don't even bother with the dessert this year. And that's when I sort of came out, and I got some pushback on that.
They made dessert anyway.
And they made dessert anyway. And I'm like, no, they're like, well, can't you take it home with you? I'm like, no, I'm serious. I'm not eating that, period.
So what does a carnivore day look like for us?
Interesting.
So I'll go first.
Go first.
Since you didn't know this was coming. I tend to eat breakfast and a late lunch. We call it dunch because it's lunch dinner. Around 8 a.m., I will have bacon and egg yolks because I'm trying to emphasize the fat. Or if for some reason I'm really hungry that morning, I'll have steak and egg yolks. And the whole point of the egg yolks is, one, it adds some nice flavor to steak. Steak and eggs is a great combination, and it's upping the fat. And then for dunch, you often prepare some sort of red meat dish. It could be another steak. It could be a slow cooked roast of some sort, chuck roast or partial brisket. You just did a beef shank.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting, pretty good. And some of those are done on the green egg smoker. Some of them are done in the oven. Some are the crock pot. Sometimes these things are air fried. And then a few times a week, we'll have some non-beef dunch. It could be a pork tenderloin. It could be some chicken. And if at any time I am actually hungry, and I feel like, you know what, I maybe underate breakfast, I will have sardines as a snack and supplement with some butter to up the fat ratio. I like sardines, so it's easy for me to eat them out of the tin. I just put a little salt on them and I'm good to go. Yeah. But it's nice to have some kind of little snack you can go to. But in general, you want to be eating enough at your main meals to not need a snack.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does your day look like?
Well, I'd like to go back in time a little bit. And my first almost 2 years on carnivore, I was still doing an eating window about 6 hours long. So I'd eat lunch. I'd break my fast at about 12 at noon. I'd have a big meal then. And my big meal would look like, lots of times I would do ground beef. You were not on ground beef that time. So I'd put my ground beef during that part of the day, whether it was a burger patty or just some ground beef. Leftovers with an egg on them because they're leftovers. So the egg helps get it down. So a lot of times it would be that type of thing. And then I would have no snack. And we'd eat around 6 o'clock at night. And again, it would be mostly red meat at that point. Now, as I've gotten leaner and we've shifted our eating a little bit, my day has changed. But I think it's important to talk about that because as I've gotten leaner, I've gotten a little hungrier. I don't have the fat stores necessarily that I did before. So I'm eating breakfast usually around 9 a.m. And that could be, like I said, leftovers, ground beef. Also, lately, I've been having Courtney Luna's fake salad, which is a bunch of bacon with some eggs in it and a little bit of blue cheese.
There's no lettuce in it.
There's no lettuce in it.
No vegetables.
No vegetables. Delicious. Sometimes I'll put some chicken breast on that, supplement with some fat, because I know that needs extra fat. But I've been having that for breakfast often. Sometimes I need a snack, though, and that's what's changed. Even though we are done eating usually by 4 p.m. at this point with our second meal of the day. Sometimes I need to throw a snack in there. And so my eating window's gotten a little bit longer and I can't necessarily go without a snack now. But my hunger is a true hunger. I know my hunger signals versus, oh, I'm just bored and I want to grab something and put it in and eat it. So yeah. So it's a little bit different since I've got leaner.
Now, I didn't do an eating window for well over a year.
Yeah.
And just instituted that probably in the last half year.
Yeah, you did sort of the opposite.
Because I was doing 3 meals a day. I was having So anyway, what I discovered was stopping eating at around 4 improved my sleep dramatically. I don't know why. For me, that was the secret.
He tried everything for years and years and years to have better sleep. And that is the one thing that worked.
So there you have it. That's how to start carnivore in 2025 or basically anytime. If you have questions, put them in the comments. We have a bunch of loyal viewers who will have answers and we'll try to answer them if we can. We will be back live on Fridays, usually around 4 p.m. Central Time. Mm-hmm. And we'll have various topics at that time and can answer questions, or at least the community can answer the questions if we don't know the answer.
So thank you so much for watching. We have a goal this year.
What is it, JJ?
It is, we would love to see 10K. What is it? You had a little name for it.
Project 10,000.
10,000.
So that's subscribers.
Yes. So
not just 10,000 random things.
Yeah. So if you have not subscribed, we would so appreciate it. And if you have anyone in your life who is interested in carnivore or just starting out, feel free to share this video. And we'd love to also see you on a live.
Yeah, we would love to see you. Introduce yourself. It's friendly there.
Yes. So until next time, bye-bye.
Eat the fat. Don't be afraid of it. Eat the fat. You're gonna feel great again. It's your fuel, it's your friend, it's delicious, so put it in. Eat the fat.